speaking of like people taking on debts and not being able to find jobs, that's just one of a couple of their issues. The next issue comes from Claremont McKenna College, the failed state update, housing and inheritance. Let's see. So this is the actual article. The article you sent me. I have to pay money to see it, and I think that's stupid. So I'm not gonna do that. But
Oh,
it comes from yeah, it's from Bloomberg. So and I have to pay money, and it's like $30 a month. I don't feel like paying that. But it was the same thing here. It's the housing market thing, the inheritance of the houses. Inheritance is one of the last reliable ways for younger Californians to own their first home. About 18% of all property transfers in the state last year, representing nearly 60,000 homes, were made through inheritance, according to a recent analysis by real estate data firm Cotality. That share is a record for California in data going back to 1995 up from 12% in 2019. It is roughly double the national share of 8.1% last year. The state's high rate of inherited homes reflects California's unique circumstance. Years of skyrocketing home prices and tax policies that encourage owners to avoid selling their houses before they die. The people who inherit these houses enjoy tremendous benefits. They can move into homes that are sorry, that they otherwise might not be able to buy at current prices, or they can sell them and keep the proceeds without having to pay capital gains tax. But the high rate of homes passed on after death is distorting the state's housing market, favoring longtime homeowners and their families overall with other homebuyers. Yeah. So that being said, I should probably start out that if I remember correctly, the median, I looked it up because I know you don't like averages. The median home price in California is $1 million, and that's like a
mm-hmm.
two-bedroom. That's $1 million, and
It's mean.
yeah, I think nationwide the median is 500,000. So yeah, most people in California probably can't afford that. That makes sense. And well,
Housing market also additional to what you're saying has sort of been free fall for the past couple of months. Not price wise, but sales wise.
oh yeah,
Um,
we talked about
the
that.
amount of new houses sold have basically been cratering. So then
Mm-hmm.
we reach this really weird position where like at some point, all right, hold on. Here's a funny bit and then the real serious conversation. Someone set up like a little Clawbot, which is CLAWBOT. It's a mini model of Claude, and he set it up to basically in the Tampa area send ultra low ball housing price offers, and it sent messages to like 300 and 52 houses, 52 listings. The average listing, like the average sale offer, like the offers that it sent was like 30% of the listed value, and they got 150 no responses and like 202 angry responses, one of which was like a threat on their life. So they reported that to the police. Um, so maybe the future is like convincing boomers that the market isn't free falling and they have to sell now, 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 now at the best price they can get.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we can all actually own housing.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, there is sort of like this. I feel like we're gonna have to hit some sort of inflection point where it's like, if no one is moving, if no like housing is being transferred, if none of this is happening, like that builds up a whole bunch of pressure in the market. And I think at some point the pressure release is either going to be building new housing, which it seems to be a lot of places are adopting, which is good, um, or like not people getting forced out of homes, but like people being literally incapable of like maintaining. Because I know, especially in like California, it's like because the houses are so valuable now, because there's so few housing or so little housing. Um, the property taxes are getting like impossible to maintain. Like people who live in these like $1.2 million houses are having to pay taxes, like property taxes, on $1.2 million houses that were not previously $1.2 million. So the land is now really, really expensive to live on, which is why you see places like California and Florida uh, trying to pass these. Like you see elderly people trying to get these bills passed that are like, no property tax for the elderly. They already paid their fair share, and it's like, go kill yourself. Um, and like they're trying to get these no property taxes things passed because now this asset that used to cost them that they bought for like 6 nickels and a raspberry, um, have now that are now like 100 and like they're like $2 million assets that you're having to pay 200 like $2 million assets on value on like maybe on taxes, at least property taxes. And that's really difficult if you're on a fixed income, if you're not prepared to pay that routinely. Like that's cutting into a bunch of lifestyle stuff and potentially grocery bills and a whole bunch of other things. And at some point, this is why they're like a bunch of them are panicking that they're not going to get the value out of it because like they are kind of trapped in these houses where it's like if they can't sell at the price, or they're trapped in big air quotes, they think they have $2 million in their pocket just waiting to be spent, just waiting to be, it's in the bank somewhere. Someone is going to buy it and then they can just spend it and live in a small beach house that they don't realize costs 400 times what they currently own in their house. um, they think it's coming, and then what's going to happen is they're either going to get forced out of it because they cannot pay property taxes, um, and then the house will be given to the government or the bank or whatever, um, who now is in possession of this rapidly depreciating asset, or not rapidly depreciating, very expensive non-appreciating asset. I think we talked about this a little bit ago, how housing is a bad investment for uh, banks and whatnot. Although I might have been having that discussion with someone else. Um, but then additionally, like yeah, it's they want the $2 million that they have in the house. They think it's in their pocket and they get to have it.
Mm-hmm.
They were never going to get it. It's never happening. Never.
Yeah.
And they're going to be stuck between a rock and a hard place where they're going to have to sell for less than they want because they cannot get the price out of it. They maybe like if they can't afford the property taxes, they can't afford the maybe the homeowners insurance, they can't afford a whole bunch of stuff on this now very expensive asset that they're trying to get rid of, but they don't want to get rid of it at the price that they could get rid of it at. They want to get rid of it at the price they want to make a huge, huge profit at. Right? They made a profit $800,000 ago,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
$1.8 million ago, but they want
The
the
profit
the
now
price they saw on Zillow that one time.
in
They want
2021.
the
Yeah.
big, 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 big payout, right? Because this is where their investment is. This is their big. You put money into your home, and that's your big wealth building asset is your home. So this is their big. This is their retirement plan. Is their home, and if that kicks out from under them, whole boy is our lifestyle change waiting for them.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And
so
you
yeah,
brought.
they either get kicked out of that by the government and they don't get any of their money, or because they can't pay their property taxes, or they settle for a way 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 lower price and basically are not able to buy a new house and are stuck with a much much smaller amount of money, potentially living with children, potentially living like they've wormed themselves into a corner they cannot worm themselves out of, and I think a lot of them are kind of just hoping to die
Yeah.
before they have to face that reality, or that some angel millennial Gen Xer comes along and goes,
Wow, a $2 million house in a shitty part of LA? Well, this is just my dream. Here, take 15% over asking. Thank you so much.
Are
like
those
I
the
think that's what
Crips?
they're holding out for. Yeah.
I'm so enthusiastic about LA culture. I can't believe we have cultural gangs like the Crips here. This is awesome.
But like you make a good point. Like one, I still think California is still try. Like I don't know if they are or they're trying to, but the unrealized gains tax, that's an issue. Like, because I know we talked about that before. And another thing is like you mentioned it. Like let's say these all the boomers die, and that all these younger people are inheriting homes. Statistically speaking, it's the younger workers are more likely to be in the lower income brackets. and
Mm-hmm.
as like the top 5% of earners are typically 45 years and older. So you have the
Yeah.
younger generation inheriting a house that they're definitely not going to be able to pay taxes on, so they're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to sell. And the problem is they're in the lower tax bracket. They have to hope a millionaire or BlackRock
Yep.
comes along and buys their home for them. Which actually, if I got a conspiracy theory hat on, that might be the play. That's the story for a different
Yeah.
time. But so it's absolutely likely that because it's gonna happen like the next 10 years.
Well,
Like,
you know what I think is gonna happen? I think on what you're saying, one, I think a bunch of big corporations are gonna come in and basically devour the market, and then two, I think just millions and millions and millions, like billions of dollars rather, potentially trillions of dollars, are just gonna evaporate. Like, I
mm-hmm,
think what's inevitably going to happen is people are gonna go, you're going to have, or I say evaporate, the hopeful reality is that the money just kind of evaporates, like the investment kind of evaporates, and people go, well, I'm not going to get any value out of the house at this amount of money. So I'll settle the lower value. And you watch the market sort of crater in price, but then people are able to buy the houses and like move forward, right? Taxes go down because all the prices went down because everything cratered. I think unironically, a full housing price crash is probably the best way out because the other way out is they all get bought up by BlackRock and investment and Vanguard and whatnot. And then they go, we're not maintaining these assets. They're losing us money. We're not selling these assets for less than we bought them for. And then millions and millions and millions of homes are just going to literally decay where they stand with nobody in them, until the property becomes fully worthless, gets bulldozed, and something new gets built there in like 50 years. But like I think that's the bad option. Is the one you're describing is like when the companies come in and buy them up, they're not going to sell them at a lower price, or if they are, they will be very lucky.
but do you think maybe not? We talked about this before. Do you think they'll buy them up and rent them?
Maybe,
I don't know how that would
maybe it's the
affect the
new
market.
model is
Yeah, you own nothing,
every
you'll be
house is
happy, but
becomes
at
a
least you have
rental,
a house.
right? Right?
And like, not only
Gary
that,
Goody's.
because let's say the large companies buy them, like historically during periods of high inflation, or if you're just trying to maintain value, one of the best strategies that you stated earlier was to hold real estate or physical assets.
Hmm.
So the boomers were expecting to get their $2 million for a house they paid 200 grand for.
200
Like,
grand. Scoff like 20,
yeah. How
which is
did?
the modern equivalent of 80.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh man, I wish. But anyways, but you know what I mean. So if they're renting it,
Hmm.
this is all theoretical. So there's obviously stuff that get more things get involved with it. But if they're renting it, they still own it. They still have a hedge against inflation. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
reason why prices, well, not the reason why, but a good reason why they skyrocketed is I remember it was like the 2020 2021 like COVID stuff. The government, and it's not just America, and other countries around the world. I remember Australia. They're they had their first home. It was like a one-story home. Like another thing's like a 1 or 2 bedroom. The first one ever cost $1 million Australian dollars. There, I remember reading an article about that. But you know, economy's doing kind of
Hmm.
bad because not a lot of people are working, not a lot of product is going out, not a lot of people are able to afford things because economy sucks. So what does the Fed normally do? Well, they lower interest rates, and it was near zero like 2020, 2021, 2022 ish, and when interest rates are zero, inflation goes up, and the value of what's it called, the value of the homes goes up because theoretically, not theoretically, it's not entirely true, but it's like, oh, interest rates are zero. More people are willing to take out loans to buy a house. Well, if they want homes, I can just increase the price. You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
so it's a hedge against inflation, and And there's also took a note here. It was things that create the quote unquote wealth effect by it's intentionally creating inflation. That way, people are more confident in their investments. Was a quantitative easing. And so quantitative easing is a monetary policy where central banks buy large amounts of financial assets to inject liquidity, lowering long-term interest rates and stimulate economic activity when conventional interest rate tools are insufficient. Now, what does that look like? Quantitative easing involves this is from Google. Quantitative easing involves the central bank purchasing large-scale financial assets such as government bonds, mortgage-backed securities, because those worked so well in 2008, or corporate bonds. This process increases the money supply, providing banks with more reserves and encouraging lending and investing. When banks are more likely to lend out money, more people are willing to pick up those loans, meaning more people are willing to buy houses. If more people are willing to buy houses, the price goes up. No one's going to be like, "Wow, these people really want to buy my house," and there's a lot of them. I'm going to lower my price. No, because they as you stated, boomers want their big checks. So again, yeah, that
Yeah.
basically my point was just if the large, BlackRock, Vanguard, whatever, like they buy the houses, it's kind of a now granted they gotta take care of it, but it's a safe investment against inflation. We're cutting interest rates now. Now granted, I think we're cutting interest rates for the AI thing happening in November, but you know what I mean. None of this is
Yep.
helping,
Yeah.
and people can't buy homes. They have to inherit their homes. People don't think a $180,000 degree is worth it, and
Yep.
they can't land jobs. So this kind of leads to